Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio, and today I'm joined by one of our RNT coaches, Elliot Hasoon. I've known Elliot for a number of years, and it's been incredible to see his growth in the industry and his evolution into a world-class body transformation coach. I had the opportunity to speak to Elliot this week, and on this podcast, we start off by speaking about long bulks and lifestyle weights, to then switching gears and diving deep into some of his past struggles he went through as he was coming up and mastering his craft in the industry. I'd urge everyone to listen right to the end, as Elliot holds nothing back here and opens up about topics he's never spoken about before. A part 2 is definitely on the card soon. Let's dive in.
So what are you working on right now?
So basically just started a maybe like 12 to 16 week prep. It's been a long surplus for me. I've been in surplus for like 2.5 years now. So it's been a decent amount of time. I would say like the whole 2.5 years has been productive, but I'm finally ready to enter another diet and get myself in photo shoot shape. So photo shoots happening, predicted the last weekend of September, I should imagine. So that's essentially the plan of action for the next 12, 13, 14 weeks, I should imagine.
Nice. So it's time to peel back the layers after years of building.
That's it. I mean, it's time to see how much work I really put in, right? Like every time that you drop another kilo and you drop another kilo and you're like, I'm already looking at my arms like I should have put more work in there. You know, yeah. It's like, it's too late now. It's just like, I just got literally, like you say, peel back the layers, see what I was building for those past 2 years. And then obviously once I'm down to those really, really lean levels, I can see where my improvements will be for next time. So it's exciting. There should be a significant improvement from last time, considering the weight that I'm currently sitting at compared to the weight I finished out last time. But time will tell, right?
What are the stats?
So stats as of today or since last time?
So your peak of this bulk versus the peak of last time's bulk.
Oh, it's a very good question, actually. If they're not too far off, but I was considerably fatter the last time I finished off my bulk, right? So I finished this bulk at 93.3 kilos. I didn't hit the 94. So sitting around the 93 is quite comfortably. And the last time I finished, I was probably around 89. I probably could have hit 90. But yeah, like I said, I was considerably fatter. But I have been 93 before as well. And that was like in one of my first bulks. So that was a messy one. That was a really, really messy bulk.
Yeah. But I mean, that's progress in itself, right? Hitting a new body weight high, but making it look better.
Exactly, right? So that's exactly my thought process sitting in the 90s. I was like, yeah, I didn't look this good at 90 kilos last time. So yeah, exactly that. So every single time that I'm dropping down now, that whatever weight I'm holding, I should imagine that will be a new and improved look at that weight as well.
So how did you find being in a surplus for so long? I mean, I'm completely on board with it because I've done those lengthy bulks as well, but it'd be good to hear what your thoughts are on that and why it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, dieting is like, for me, is the easy part, right? Like you see those day-to-day differences. Like if you wake up in the morning, you're like, I look leaner today, especially when you get to like week 6, week 7, week 8, like the changes happen day on day. Like you have a good night of sleep and all of a sudden you look like 10 times leaner than you did the day before, right? So it's really encouraging, and it's really, I'm not taking any away from, like, obviously dieting is hard. I'm not taking anything away from it, but at the same time, the results are so tangible and in your face that, you know, it keeps you on board just by seeing that scale drop for so long, right? So the initial stages of a long surplus is, it's kind of a bit of a mental battle, right? Because you've been praising yourself and everyone's been praising you on these new low weigh-ins, the leaner and leaner you get, and all of a sudden you've got to congratulate yourself on going up, right? Yeah. But once you kind of get past that initial, once you get past like the initial 3 or 4 kilos, everything after that, it's like you break that mental barrier, and then you got to kind of switch your mentality from focus on staying as lean as possible, and you just got to focus mainly on performance more than anything, and just essentially enjoying your training. First year or so, I did a lot of traveling last year during the time that I was in my surplus as well. So it actually proved quite difficult than some of the prior surpluses I was in, because my variables were more under my control, right? So I was in a consistent environment, training was consistent, whereas this one was quite up and down with me traveling quite a bit. So that was a big difference from this time. But once I got to the point where I'm at like 18 months to 2 months, this is the period where you just got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Like you don't like how you kind of feel on a day-to-day basis in terms of digestion's not in a fantastic place. You know, you're comfortable shirtless because you're still muscular, but at the same time, you know what you look like when you're 10 kilos lighter. So like, this is what I mean. Like past 2 years, I've done so much traveling, but not one time have I actually been like what I would consider in shape. But once you kind of break that barrier, the 5 to 6 kilos, after that, you know, you're just like, you know, your numbers are going up, you're filling out your t-shirts. So, and you know, you've got to put those long yards in for the bigger picture, which is the next time you cut down, which is now the time for me, basically.
The reward phase.
The reward phase, precisely. You got to put in those years, man. Like, that's what I mean. Like, people come out of their initial diets and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about bulking for like 6 months. And like, you know, I mean, like you're going to achieve something from 6 months bulk, but you'd be way better off like going for a 12, like anything over a year is what I'm going to recommend.
Yeah.
I still think a year isn't enough, personally. I know what your thoughts are, but I don't think
I agree.
A year, but beyond, that's where you're going to make the magic.
Yeah, 18 months at least is what you need. And I also agree with the fact that the traveling thing, with fat loss, I think traveling is a lot easier, because with fat loss, you just need to train to maintain almost and just make sure you're in a deficit. When you try to build muscle, though, and you keep traveling, you lose that. You need all those training variables to be really similar, I find anyway. Like, for me, gym hopping is difficult if you're trying to build muscle, because you're so zoned in on performance. And if you're changing environment all the time, it becomes quite difficult. But for fat loss, it's a lot easier.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I mean, even though like the weight is exactly the same, it just feels heavier when you're not in your own gym, right? Like every time, especially if you go abroad, I'm sure the weight's like heavier over there. Like a 45 kilo does not feel like a 45 kilo when you're in a different gym, right? So from that perspective as well, like you go in, you aim to hit your numbers, and you're just not hitting them. And yeah, and the food side of things as well, like of course you can get calories, but you know, they're not going to be the right calories, right? It's like my lifestyle last year, that's what probably made it even more challenging. Like I was obviously a one-to-one personal trainer. That's not conducive to a surplus because you're always on the move. Like it's essentially, I think people underestimate how much like physical work you actually do when you do like 8 to 10 sessions a day, right? Plus traveling on top of that, like at that moment in time, like a surplus, I mean, a dieting phase would have been easy because my expenditure would have been through the roof, right?
Dieting's like 400 grams of carbs in dieting.
Exactly. And the thing is, you barely have time to eat as well, right? So it's even better. Like you can't even think about food. You're moving all the time. So yeah, exactly. Traveling is a lot easier. I mean, you get your Airbnb and all stuff like that. You don't actually have to eat that much food. You can buffer throughout the day. But yeah, when you're in a surplus, it's just like, it's tough. It is.
And also with a surplus, like you said, it's easy to get calories in, but if you want to get high carbs in, it's actually quite hard because everything's so high fat as well when you're eating on the go.
Precisely. And that's it. Like most people, like including myself, when you travel, you're not intending, like if you pre-prepare and you're like, okay, so I'm going to go on this, I go to this place, I'm going to go to an Airbnb, we're going to pick up all our meals, we're going to, it just doesn't happen, right? Like, especially where you went, when you went out in Asia for 3 weeks, right? Like,
yeah, I came back lighter.
Yeah, exactly. You're relying on other people's foods and it's impossible, right? Like, I mean, it can be done, but it's difficult, right?
Yeah. And this is muscle building. So I think for fat loss, it's way easier. Like, it's just, like you said, you can just buffer and just look at calories as opposed to macros. But muscle building is a different thing, I think. And then also with fat loss, you're just training to maintain. And maintenance is so much easier than actually building. Building muscle is a whole different ballgame.
That's what I mean. I think people actually underestimate how difficult a bulk is compared to. That's what I was alluding to in the earlier stages when I was saying like fat loss is, you know, it's relatively simple, right? Whereas, you know, actually holding a surplus for a good length of time, that's actually where the real work begins, right? Because of you've also got to think so much in the bigger picture as well, because of, you know, 2 kilos, like from going from like 90 kilos to 92 kilos on my frame did not look a single bit of difference. But on the way down, 87 is going to look completely different to 85, right? So you're not even seeing changes. So you've only really got your strength to focus on. And then if you travel and you're not seeing the strength go up, then, you know, it really makes it hard to see the bigger picture.
What's the leanest body weight you've been?
Leanest body weight, I believe it was somewhere between 68 and 69 kilos.
Oh wow! So you drop a ton when you diet down.
Yeah. Well, I definitely won't be at that this time around, but
I was gonna say you don't look like you got that much to lose.
No, I think to be honest, I'm gonna sit around. And like thing is as well, I don't want to get inside out peeled this time either. Like I don't want to get shredded glutes. I don't want to go on stage. That kind of portion of my life is past me. I think if I clip 10 or 15 kilos, I'm going to be in considerably better shape, obviously considerably better shape than I am now, ready for a photo shoot, I should imagine. Like, to be honest, I might get to 15 kilos and like drops and be like, I can push for another 2 or 3. I probably will, just knowing my mentality. But in the back of my mind, I just want to get lean enough to look good as a shoot, but not get like inside out peeled. Whereas when I stepped on stage at like 69 kilos or whatever that was, or photo shoot, when in fact I actually lost muscle when going into the photo shoot that I did because of just months and months of dieting and inconsistent variables. I was in stage condition on the first time, and then the second time around when I got a little bit leaner, not even leaner, but lighter for the shoot, I was actually probably dropped muscle at that point as well.
What year was this?
So 2016 was the year I competed. That was sometime in April. That was my best look to date. That's why it's my WhatsApp picture, my Facebook, my Instagram. Like it's the picture I coined basically. And then I did a second show, which was in hindsight was a major mistake. I did a second show in September. So I held off, I held kind of a maintenance for like 8 weeks and then delved into another deficit. And in September, and I looked terrible. Like, dude, I looked terrible. There's no like recollection. There's like very minimal photos of that show.
Did you just string out on, like you just flattened out, lost muscle, all of that?
Exactly. And my lifestyle at that time, stress was up at that point, and I just got so absorbed in the whole competing thing that I remember I was speaking to my coach, and he was like, I've got some other athletes competing in this show in September in Cardiff. And I was like, do you think I'll be ready? And I think he said with the best intentions, maybe just not to let me down, but yeah, you'll be ready. Just, we'll put you back into a small surplus. That didn't happen because I was too scared to gain any body fat, right? So I just held weight.
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, exactly. Then I dipped back down into a deficit again. And obviously, like, in my pictures, I was like, I look incredible because I'm so lean now. Like, I was obviously leaner than the last time. But then when I got on a stage, like, I just didn't feel up at all. Like, I barely looked trained, in my opinion, right? And I was just like, who is this skinny dude? This is just terrible. But in hindsight, I would have just like dieted for another 2 weeks, competed in a show 2 weeks later, probably looked a lot better. But you live and you learn, right? Yeah,
holding on to that really, really lean body weight without going into surplus is very tough. Like I did it for about 8 weeks after my show in 2017, and I just felt crap all the time. And then it got to the point where I was like, I think I actually have to put on body fat if I want to feel better. Because I was eating all these carbs. I was boasting to myself, I'm eating 350, 400 grams of carbs. But I probably was still like in a deficit or still like in maintenance because I was doing so much activity. Then I was like, I think I just need to eat now. So I just jacked my food up like by 1,500 calories and just steadily gained body fat.
Yeah, fortunately you got that in 8 weeks, right? Like I wish that I would have been just like, forget this. But I was just so consumed in competing again, like I got such a high and such a buzz off my first show. And I was just like, I just want to do it again. I was like, I knew other people going into that September show. And I mean, that's just inexperience and just naivety at a young age of just getting too excited about that and not really knowing any better, right? And what's funny as well? I went to Body Power back in the days when Body Power was like quite a big thing. And I spoke to, you remember the men's physique champion, Jeremy Bundia?
Oh, I don't know, no.
He's just basically like the winner of the Physique Olympia, right? Like he's kind of a big deal, but supposedly. And then I spoke to him and he's like, dude, you need to give your body a break. And like even the guy who is like top of the game in what I was competing for, I was like, no, I'm not gonna listen. I'm gonna compete in September. Even though this guy was just like the peak of what I was competing at the time, I was like, okay. And then I just walked away. I was like, nah, never happening. So, I had plenty of people warning me away from it, but you just get consumed in it, right?
Was that your first show then? That season when you did April and September, were they your first 2 shows?
Correct. Yeah, first time ever.
And your last 2 probably?
Never say never, right? So I have no desire at the moment. Like, actually, it's only recently to like come round to the idea of not doing it again. Like, I was out in Mauritius like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, right? And it took me only to that point, right? So I'm like 2 years into a bulk. So this bulk, the surplus I've just done, was to get me back on stage, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that was in my mind, right? I was just telling people like, do you compete anymore? I'm like, I technically don't, because you're not competing until you're actually prepping, technically, right? So I was like to them, yeah, I'm going to compete probably, the initial I was 2019, and I was like, I haven't done enough work yet. Let me go for 2020. And then I was just sat there, like poolside, like there was beachside, and it was just super quiet. And I was just like, why am I doing this? I'm like, do I really have the desire to even get on stage again? I'm like, will it add any value to my life whatsoever?
Yeah.
And this is not to take anything away from people who want to compete and who love competing, because I get it. And I was just like to myself, I don't think it will. I was like, right now, if I was like 10 kilos lighter, I'd be so much happier. And I wouldn't care about stepping on stage. So upon that kind of epiphany that I had, with finally having some time to reflect, that was kind of my thought process behind this diet right now shouldn't be happening, basically. Like, I was going to hold off a surplus until the end of the year and prep in early 2020. But in fact, like, I completely changed lanes and decided that, I want to get leaner. A photo shoot would be a good enough goal for me, and that's where we'll go from here. And then if competing comes in the future, okay. But if not, I can actually now live without it.
So when you get lean for this, what's the goal afterwards? You're going to go in for another big bulk, or are you just going to kind of stay in that happy medium of lifestyle, lean body weight?
Yeah, so this is the big question, actually. And finding out what my next move is in terms of the training is going to be a big one, actually, because of, as well, like when I was in late 2017, 2018, just like more health things came into my mind more than anything. And with that being said, when you go into a push in a surplus and you're pushing like 4,000 calories, you just know that, that's not necessarily healthy, right? Like, you feel, it's not unhealthy to say it's good, but forcing down calories when you have no interest in doing it and not really caring for the quality, but just focusing on calories, that to a degree can be relatively unhealthy. So it kind of contradicted what I actually thought about health. Like, I want to prioritize like good foods and everything like that. But in reality, I was just eating as much like bagels and granola as possible just to get the calories in, right? So it kind of contradicted that. And then, so now I'm coming down to this point where I kind of, from a nutrition perspective, I want to prioritize getting better nutrition rather than pushing myself up to 4,000 calories again. But also at the same time, I still want to gain muscle, but I'm not sure if I will just be solo bodybuilding. Like, I'd like to explore other things. I'm not necessarily, I'm going to go into CrossFit, but, something that's more athletic, but potentially I might do more yoga. I might challenge myself to do more things like, just like for yourself earlier this year, you did the charity run, right? Like, I've never done like a 10K. That might be something that just, I feel like I want to play around with loads of different avenues of fitness itself and potentially sport as well, and then go from there pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like we're in similar positions where we've done like long bulks in the past. We've pushed our body weights high. Like, I've done the 90 kilo bulk before and the 4,000 calorie a day diet. And it's, it's fun in the gym and all that. But, for me, I don't feel great on that. My digestion's horrible. My face is bloated. I just basically look like a bigger version of the skinny fat person I used to be. Instead of being skinny fat at 58, I look skinny fat at 90 kilos. And then like in the last 6 to 9 months, I've just sort of held 80 to 82. And now I'm thinking, I want to get lean, but I don't want to get stage lean. I don't want to get the trunks back on. I just want to look good for like a shoot, and then maybe just hold just above it for a bit. Mm-hmm. And then like yourself, just see what happens after. But right now I'm in that phase where I just want to kind of just enjoy being lean. And, if the surplus is, if a long surplus is calling for me again, then, I'll go for it. But, when you just feel like you've done a lot of it and you just want to enjoy the fruits of your labor for a bit.
100%. Yeah, 100%. We're actually in really similar positions. I didn't realize that. That's exactly my thought process behind it as well. It's just like, I feel like, I haven't obviously I've done one official photo shoot and 2 shows. But I've dieted twice kind of intensely between those as well. And I feel like I've gone through the bulk and cut for like 5. This will be my 5th or 6th time now. And I'm like, you know, when you feel like you've just done a lot of it, right? And it's like, I was going to say, I've never had a period where I've just aimed to maintain, you know, like I've not had like a long 6-month period. Like I've maybe done it for like 2 or 3 months, like holding a body weight, but that's still whilst being in a, you know, with in mind for a surplus. I've never just, and obviously in between that show I did, I've never actually been like, okay, I'm happy with how I look. Let me hold this here for 6 months to a year. I've never done that. So that'd be a new goal in itself, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one as well. I've kind of like reset my set point almost as 80 to 82 kilo, and it's felt good now. But now, you know, I just got that itch to just to push myself a bit harder in going down, but not to the point of stage ready. It is tempting because like after my 2017, I was like, you know, I'm going to take 3 years out and go for it again in 2020. But kind of brought it in a year early. I don't think I've made like massive improvements since. Like this time last year, I was at 91 kilos. So June 2018, I was 91 kilos, like strong as hell, but looked like a mess. And then just gradually like tapered down from there out of that massive fluffy zone. But I don't know if I want to go back up there again.
Yeah. So what was your reason? Why did you want to get back up on stage in 2020?
Oh, you know, when you do a show in 2017, or when you do a show, you're like, oh, I'm going to spend 2.5 years now bulking and then come back and bring a better package. You know, the usual, you're riding off the high motivation. And you start thinking like that. But I guess life has kind of got in the way, and I haven't had that drive for the bulk as much as I had in the past. Like I did it after the show, I held it for a while, and then I did it. But for about a year, I was bulking hard. Got to the strongest I ever lifted in terms of like dumbbell floor pressing 55 for 6. So that was like my strongest ever. I was doing RDLs with just over 150 for 5, but you know, right down to my ankles sort of thing. So I was at my like strongest. What was that?
Cash range.
Yeah. So I was at my strongest, and then like a series of events just meant like my focus kind of went. I lost body weight. I think it was through stress and different things going on. Lost some body weight, lost some strength with that. And then I just haven't really gone back up there because then I did the Tough Mudder. I got injured just before the Tough Mudder, and then it just never really come back since. So I just shifted my goals really.
Yeah, that makes sense. I hear you. And the thing is like when I stepped off stage in 2016 after my second show, and it was exactly that. I was like riding off the high, and also like I've got a point here. Like I was like, I have the potential to be really good. And I was like, and I'm young, I'm going to ride off this potential. I want to get back on stage. I want to get better. And then I realized it's just like, eventually I was just like, you know, you change as a person within 200 years, right? Like the person who steps on stage, obviously I'm the same person, but I'm 10 times different compared to that guy who used to be, right? So a lot has happened within that time frame, and your priorities change. And like you said, you just get to a point where,
so you mentioned you had a point to prove there. Let's go way back now, because that's an interesting point you just said. What was your first reason for getting into the gym, getting into training, and how long have you been training? Let's go right back and to the roots of Mr. Hasoon.
Let's go real deep. So it's actually funny because when you asked me, you know, when I came on board with RNT, you asked me to, you know, write a little bio and give my story. And it was only when I was writing your one did I realize like where I actually started in terms of lifting. And I found it quite amusing because it didn't occur to me. It just wasn't one of those things, you know, when people ask you for a bio and you're like, okay, I'm a personal trainer and X year, and, you know, I like helping people. And X, Y, and Z, you don't actually go like why you actually begun.
Yeah.
So basically, I was kind of a skinny fat kid. Like people will be like, oh, you know, you see you on stage, they see you lean, they're like, oh, you must be just like genetically lean, or, you know, you have really like favorable genetics. I was like, no, I was skinny fat. Like I typically was. Like I played a lot of sport, but my nutrition as a child wasn't fantastic whatsoever. Just due to just the way that life is, right? As you're a child, you don't really have much awareness of this. So I was skinny fat. I had like little man boobs and everything like that. And I had this awareness that I wasn't in fantastic shape. You know, I had friends who were like super, super lean. And it was only to the point when I was like 13, 14 years old, did I actually realize like, you know, there was actually something I could do about this. You know, like I could actually change the way my body looked. Well, I didn't even really know, but I saw that other people were in shape, right? So I was looking at these other guys and I was just like, why are they in shape and I'm not? So I started searching on Google, like, you know, I went like dive deep. I probably spent like a day looking into like diets and training and stuff like that. And all I got was like high protein, low carb. Like those were the words that rung true in my head. I was like, okay, high protein.
Sorry, Elliot, so you were talking about when you were 13, 14, yeah?
Yeah, probably like
okay.
probably between those ages actually. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And, so I dug really deep into that, more like 14, 15 actually. I'd say 14. Yes. So I dug deep into that, and then I started wanting to make these changes to my diet. And obviously, you know, you're at that point where your mum and dad still cook your meals, right? So I was telling them, I was like, so, you know, I'm reading about this thing, like I need to get more protein in my diet. Like they just didn't understand it, right? They just thought he needs a balanced diet. I was like, no. So like I looked for I went in my freezer, looked at what sources of protein we had, and we had like breaded chicken. And I was just like, okay, there's 20 grams in here. I'm going to have some of this. And I found vegetarian burgers. It's like, okay, there's like 7 grams of protein in this. And then I just read that 25 grams was like the magic number. I was like, perfect. This is what I'm going to have. So I decided that would be like my dinner every single day, basically. And obviously I realized eggs had protein. So, you know, I started doing eggs every morning. And then I would like start prepping my own meals, which like I was 14, 15, more like 15-year-olds old at this point. And then then I realized egg whites. So I'd like slightly chuck my yolks away, and I didn't want people to think I was wasting the eggs. But then I was just like, chicken breast was a big deal. So I went on Amazon at like probably like more like 15, 16 now, bought my own George Foreman grill, probably got it from Argos or something like that. And that became my best friend. And that's like kind of how my introduction into nutrition started. And I was just there trying to desperately get in protein, whereas I would come back from playing football or something like that, and they would like, my mom and dad would like cook me like a plate of pasta. And I'd be like so frustrated being like, you don't understand, I need to get protein in. And they'd be like, you need a balanced diet. And I was just like it was driving me nuts. I was just trying to get in shape basically at 15, 16 years old. And it wasn't because they weren't, you know, they were trying to do the best thing for me with what they knew, right? And this was like me being like, this is the start of me changing. And then in terms of training, then I realized obviously I need to weight train as well. So that began with like searching on YouTube, and then started doing like body weight dips on the side of my bath, like doubling up with shampoo bottles, doing bicep curls.
Dips on the bath, yeah?
Exactly, like on the side of the bath. And then I'd do some planks and like knee press ups and stuff like that. That would be my training, right? I'd spend like an hour in the bathroom, like knocking these out.
I wonder what your parents thought you were doing in there.
I think they knew I was working out. I was just like, I'm exercising. And then I tried, like, it was the thing. It was like, if the shampoo was half empty, I'd try and like grab 2 and hold them and do bicep curls. And eventually then they bought me a weight set for my, like, I think it must have been my 15th or 16th birthday. It was like a 1 to 3 kilo weight set.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like the pink, green, and yellow, the typical, like, you know what I mean? I know obviously I outgrew those very quickly. And then actually for like 15-year-olds, the gym was actually free at the time in the community center.
Okay.
So I ended up going with a friend on like the first day. I was turning 16. I was close to turning 16 at the time. And then I went with a friend, and then he kind of dropped off, but like I caught the bug. Like I was like, this is my place to be. And then ever since then, you know, I got hooked. You know, it's just like, that was it. It was, and then I actually met a guy in there who was like 21 or 22, and he was in what I perceived as great shape at the time. Unfortunately, he took me under his wing. I have no idea why. I was like the most like skinny, fat, weird looking kid in the gym. Like he was 15 years old. He spent like 3 hours at a time. Honestly, I would do like 600 calories worth of cardio on a cross trainer. Then I'd do like an hour and a half of weights. Then I'd do 30 minutes of core. And then like everyone knew it. They were like the under 16s gym finished at 5. But I was there till like 6 o'clock. Hadn't spent like after school until like 6 o'clock there. So this guy kind of took me under his wing and then kind of showed me the way essentially. And then it kind of evolved from there. So
what's your background? What's your background, Elliot?
So my mother is English and my father is from Iraq. So part Arabic, part English.
Okay, so what kind of diet were you brought up on? Is it an English diet, or did you have an Iraqi influence in there as well?
Yeah, it was more an English diet. So my mom's vegetarian. So she always really, really encouraged me to eat the foods that she was making, which were like they weren't protein filled, but they were like always full of veg, right? And they were always home cooked.
Yeah.
She would make like vegetarian curries and stuff like that. But, at that age, you have no interest in stuff like that, right? So in their minds, right, they were like, we just need to get the kids eating. So it was like, they weren't bad, but it was just more like, let's feed them whatever they eat. So that might have been like frozen food that was just, typically English frozen food. And yeah, like beans on toast, eggs on toast, and stuff like that, just anything that the child would eat. So that was kind of what I was brought up on. And in hindsight, it's obviously, it's terrible in terms of what I was eating, but they were trying to do their best for their child, right? But they just didn't have that knowledge and that awareness. And, I kind of look back at them and I'm like, why did you not feed me like bone broths when I was like 5 years old? Like, imagine how large I'd be right now. But no, they just didn't know. They just didn't have that awareness. And I hope that now that I have this awareness, and if one day I have children, like I can start those things really early and then just make sure that they get really positive start from a nutrition perspective, just because they didn't know. And like, I can't say anything. They were just trying to do the best of it. Right?
You can give your kids 2 shampoo bottles on their 11th birthdays.
That's it, man. Like you gotta be done. You just get them running around, get them doing like press ups.
Go on, son.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on, son. Spend an hour in the shower today.
Just get them in that environment, right? That's the thing, right? If you bring your kids up to, like, kids mimic what you do, right? So if you can bring your kids to an environment where you're training, you're eating nutritious food, then they should follow suit, right? You hope so.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and it's very similar to what I had when I was growing up. In that, your parents try and do the best, but looking back, that the diet could have been a lot better. But they just do what they deem best at the time, and that's completely fine.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, eventually they realized this thing that I was doing wasn't just a phase, and this was something I actually genuinely cared about, right? And then they would start like facilitating me going to the gym. Like they wouldn't like keep me at home doing chores. They would let me go to the gym, and they'd also let me eat whatever I want, shop for the foods that I actually wanted. So once they understood what I was doing and how passionate I was about it, they went with it basically.
Got it. And when did you realize that you wanted this to become your career path?
So I actually so this didn't stem from necessarily loving training. So I know a lot of the personal trainers that I know, it's like they had a love for training and they wanted to kind of transform that passion into personal training, right? It's kind of the simple, normal thing to do. Whereas my passion actually came from I wanted to be a PE teacher initially. I actually wanted to teach. So I always liked the idea of being able to, positively influence younger people, right? And I always thought, all these older teachers, they weren't really very inspiring. I'd come in as like a young 20-year-old, and then hopefully they would want to, pursue sport and stuff like that. So that was like, when I did work experiences in school, I actually worked in younger schools, and kind of it was more of a passion to help younger people as opposed to, coming from a fitness perspective. And then when I started training and when I started having this love for fitness as well, that was when I realized that, the teacher might not be the route, but actually helping people, because the sport was the passion before, right? And then all of a sudden fitness became the passion, and then from there, from before I didn't actually know that was a possibility. Like I kind of knew from going to the gyms that fitness instructing was kind of a thing, but I was like, it kind of looks boring. People just do inductions, they ship it around gym. And then I was introduced into what a personal trainer was. And then, so from the moment I was in college at the time, I was between maybe 17 and 18 years old. And then all of a sudden I knew that was a route I could go down. I was sold. I was like, this is perfect. This is what I want to do in terms of teaching and helping people, combined with this new passion I have, which is training and health and fitness, right? So that's when the decision was made, and it was a pretty fast turnaround, actually. From the moment I decided, which was probably February in my last year in college, maybe springtime, I then qualified in that same summer.
Oh, wow. So you became a personal trainer straight after school?
Straight after college. So I had... you go for your GCSEs.
Yeah.
Exactly. So straight out.
So you were 18?
18, yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So I was, super young when I went into it. And I was actually 17 when I started the course, because I'm an August birthday.
Yeah.
So it started on like August 1st, and I qualified maybe like obviously mid-ish September. And so I went from 17 to 18 whilst doing my course as well, actually.
And did you begin personal training from then, or did you go to university? What was the next stage of your journey?
Immediately, I jumped into personal training. So you know how these 6-week courses, they sell the whole get an immediate interview job or get an immediate job straight after, when in reality, when you're a personal trainer, you realize you're paying them rent. They're not actually giving you anything, right? They say, oh, we'll take you on for an interview. And you feel so privileged. You're like, oh, I got passed. And you realize it's just, you know what it is. Anyway, so yeah, immediately after, they were like, we'll find you a gym within your area that we kind of umbrella over. They had like middlemen who kind of facilitated your move into a gym. So literally I finished this course that I did, and then they set me a start date for maybe a month later. And then the guy called me up, and it was like, I thought I had a month to just chill before I went in. And the guy called me up, and he's like, hey, we're expecting you this morning. I was like, you told me it was a month. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I'm here now. So if you want to make your way down, we can get you started. And this was literally maybe like 3 or 4 days after my course. So I went down, had the induction, and then literally started on that same Monday, which was in September as well.
That's awesome. So you went straight from school onto the gym floor, and you've been, I mean, up till like a few months ago, you've been on the gym floor ever since?
Up until a few weeks ago. I've only been full-time RNT for 4 weeks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because you were still doing PT for this year. Until then, so pretty much 7 years on the gym floor straight.
Exactly that.
You really put the time and miles in then.
Mate, you have to, right? And I think this is quite a conversation that us guys have been having now, is that everyone does want to be the online coach because they see, probably Nathan's the worst example of it, right? Just traveling around the world, grabbing his laptop, and you're even worse now as well. And they see that, right? And they see the lifestyle, and it's very tempting. But you know, I would say to anyone, I'm sure you'll agree, is that you've got to put those years in on the gym floor. Like, I wouldn't be the same coach I am today if I hadn't done, right? And there's so many elements of one-to-one training that help me be a good online coach that I am right now.
What's the number one thing you think that online coaches need to gain from the gym floor?
I think they need to experience firsthand working with so many different bodies, structures, and personalities. You know, like setting on like a program for someone online is, you know, you obviously have an idea of what their capabilities are, kind of training age and injury wise. But, you know, that program on paper looks nothing like what it looks like once you perform it, right? Well, just generally because if you have no idea how they're going to perform that, right? Like you might have someone with like 0 injuries, you know, they look like they've got a superb structure, yet they have no body awareness. Right. And coaching is harder in terms of like the training side of things through online than it is one-to-one, right? Because you can literally physically put people in positions, you can, you know, alter their body position, you give them different little cues that you know. Whereas online, you need to have that idea. You like, if you've been in that position before one-to-one, it makes it a lot easier to fix online, right?
Yeah.
If you've never had this experience before, you're going to be scratching your head. This isn't stuff you can Google. You know, this is stuff you actually really have to experience. Otherwise, you know, you're going to really, really struggle, to be honest.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, in the last episode 83, which is the 7 Faces of Online Coaching, which has come out just before this, me and Nathan had to talk about the importance of putting in the time and miles on the gym floor as a prerequisite for being a good online coach. And I'm a massive believer of doing that before you can completely step away from it.
Absolutely. And when, you know, maybe I've known about online coaching for a little while now, like I've been kind of running a form of online coaching on the side of my coaching because I got the awareness of it maybe like 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was obviously in its very early stages there, but I knew it was a thing. And, you know, it was something I wanted to do since then, but I'm so glad that life didn't work that way. And I didn't become an online coach then because I needed those extra years on the floor to perfect my craft and ultimately be the coach I am today.
Yeah. You have to perfect your craft on the floor before you can go online, I think.
Yeah. That's huge.
So what is, you know, on the floor, you're on the floor for 7 years, you know, that's not easy to do. And you've got to have a real passion for the industry. What is your biggest driver and love for the industry? Why are you still here? Because a lot of people get burnt out after that many years on the floor. So what's kept you going after all these years?
So I'll give you some context. Is that before I joined the gym that we worked together at in London, I was contemplating leaving the industry at that point. So I had done, I don't know how many years that would have been by then. It must have been about 4.5 years at that point.
Yeah.
And the biggest switch was from going from a personal trainer to a body transformation coach. So that's the key moments in my career that basically is why I'm still here, right? So when I was a personal trainer doing the one-to-one, it was a whole trading time for money thing. That was what it was. I didn't get much fulfillment out of it because obviously in the initial stages it's exciting, it's new, and you're helping people. But, as a personal trainer, you don't get, in these commercial gyms, and this is not all of them, but this is definitely the gym I was in. Your clients aren't that committed. You are making a difference, but you're making a very, very small difference. And to be honest, in those first few years, I would have changed lives in a sense, but I don't change lives like the way I change lives now, right? I helped people get in shape, but not like epic shape. I just made them feel a little bit better, right? And that's not to take away anything that I did, because that was all I knew at the time, right? So I was a very optimistic, passionate young trainer at the time, right? You are in your early teens. So I wanted to learn as much as possible and help as much as possible, but that's all I had within my toolbox for that period. So after a few years of that, it's just like, it comes a bit monotonous, and I didn't really get any fulfillment out of it. So applying for the position in London was kind of the make or break. It was maybe like July or August of that summer. And I was like, I'm not sure this is going to last, and then a friend of mine was like, why don't you just apply for that position? And I was like, maybe I just need a change of environment. Maybe I've just exhausted my time in my hometown. And then I was like, let me try this. And this is probably going to be, if this doesn't work, this might be the last gig I do in this industry. I had no idea what I was going to look into next. I didn't really get that far, but all I knew was that I probably needed a way out. And then obviously I made my way over to London, and my life got turned upside down, to be completely honest. And I met Akash. And
carry on there.
So I met Akash, who wasn't my biggest fan when he first met me. Do you want to go into that story, Akash? Because I don't even really know the reason why you do.
I don't know the reason either. I think I was just so fed up of working there that I just anyone knew that walked in the door, I just my nose just turned up for them. But no, as in I said to you, like when you interviewed for RNT, and I said, like, mate, you're a completely different person than you were 2.5 years ago when I met you in London when we used to work at the same place. Because back then, firstly, like, you were, I don't know if you had just come off some extreme diet, but you were some skinny dude wearing a big t-shirt that was hanging off you. And for me, that's always like, the trainer's got to look the part, and that was like the first like red flag. And then I saw you training like a pansy, and I thought, this guy's just he's just a waste of space. And then a waste of space. And then I think you were dieting at the time for something. I can't remember what it was. For a shoe. Okay, so you were dieting. I think you were dieting pretty hard as well. But you just started and you were dieting really hard. And I think you were dieting so hard that I didn't think you had any energy left, right? So whenever you tried to speak to me or whenever you did anything, it was so like low on energy that I just thought, this guy just doesn't care, or just has maybe he's just so arrogant that he just doesn't want to talk to anyone. I just had it in for you. I just had it in for you, like, just from like judging you from there. And then we obviously didn't speak much in my time, and I left pretty much as soon as you came in, a couple months after. And then it was only like a few months before we put the advertisement out here. And then I was speaking to Nathan, and he was just like, Elliot's working with me in London at this new place now, and he's really come a long way. And I was like, oh, yeah, that guy. And then this year in January or February, whenever we put the advert out, Nathan said, I think Nathan must have told you to apply. And I don't know what you said to him. I
said, I don't think Akash likes me. I don't know why you want me to apply.
So you applied, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get, this looks, you gave a video. It was really good. And And I said to Nathan, what do you think? He's like, I really like him. And I was like, all right, I'll get him on the interview. And then a completely different person, like filling out your t-shirts, speaking with confidence, like just a completely new man. And I was like, wow, I'm actually really impressed. Which is another question I have for you later. But carry on with your story about, you said your life turned upside down when you went into London.
Yeah. Firstly, I appreciate you for recognizing that. And I also appreciate the fact that you didn't think this guy, like, I didn't like him then, I'm not going to like him now. So that says a lot about you being willing to actually, give me an opportunity, even when you had a very concrete idea of who I was before. So that was, so saying that I actually really appreciate that. But let's also not forget to dive into the diet that I was in when I was prepping for that shoot, because that was the time when I was on 850 calories, and I feel like there's a good message behind that as well. So we'll change lanes in a minute, but so essentially I moved to London, right? It was the first time leaving my hometown. When I got into the personal training industry, like... Where was
your hometown? Sorry, just to the listeners know.
Yeah, it was Oxford. Yeah, exactly.
And for anyone in the States, that's like anyone outside of the UK, how far is Oxford from London? Like,
it's like an hour train journey.
Small town. Very different to London. Yeah,
it's massively different, right? Like when I go back there now, I'm like, this place is like a ghost town, right? It's so quiet compared to London, right? And I'm moving into central London. This is my first time leaving my parents' home. This is the first time I've ever like really been independent, right? And I'm moving solely for this job. And all of a sudden, I go into this place where I'm already a bit daunted. Like it's already a bit daunting going into this place because I know the reputation that this company has and these trainers have. And I get in on day one and I'm like, what the hell was I doing for the last 3 or 4 years? Like I was like the standard was just, I remember the first team meeting, I was there and the conversation, I was like, I've not even heard these words before. I was just like, I felt so out of my element. And I was just like, this is a whole new world, right? So I was like in a new city, all alone, didn't know a single person in London. My family were back in Oxford. I wanted to make this work. So I wanted to be all independent. And so I didn't actually have them come over to London or go home much. I was just like, I'm going to basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically just be within this whole atmosphere and just soak it all up and absorb it all, basically. So I dove deep into where I was. And then as time went on, I was like, I need to find a way to prove myself, right? And then obviously this opportunity for the photo shoot came up as well. So I did the photo shoot, and obviously, things didn't quite turn out the way I want. But within that time in that gym, I then learned the art of changing people's bodies and changing people's lives. And I remember coming to the end of a couple of transformations that I achieved where people would literally, I had emails saying, you've changed my life. And that basically just reignited my passion for the industry. And I was like, it was basically like finding out you had a superpower that you never realized you had, right? And all of a sudden I could actually have a profound impact on people's lives. And all of a sudden that just like, that lit a fire inside of me. And all of a sudden I was just like, this is what I want to do. And this is the way I'm going to make an impact. And this is kind of what I was searching for in the initial stages of finding this career. And, now I've actually found it. Obviously things didn't work out in London, but I was able to then do that. So I went off to Oxford, then went off to Cheltenham, and I was able to continue that as well. And just, again, continue to perfect my craft, no longer as a personal trainer, as a body transformation coach. And now that I was able to make this impact into people's lives, it's like, that was the game changer for me. And that's now why I do what I do. And then fast forward to now, and the reason why the appeal of online is so much more appealing to me than one-to-one is that I was starting to become frustrated with one-to-one because I only knew I could impact maybe, what it's like, you can't do more than 30 to 40 hours a week, right? So you can maximum work with like 10 to 15 people. And I'm like, 10 to 15 people is okay, but wouldn't it be great if I could work with 50, 60, 70? Imagine if I could impact so many more lives, and not just in the UK, not just in this gym, but worldwide as well. And that's, all of a sudden, the person who I was becoming in terms of developing myself realized that life isn't just about me, but it's about making an impact and serving others. And I was like, just scratching my head. I'm like, how do I do this? Like, do I need to start a nonprofit? Do I need to start doing more charity work? And then I was like, you're looking too far out. Just look in front of you. Like, you have an ability to actually help people transform, right? And so that's why I wanted to dive into online and wanted this ability to help more people and get people into better stages of their lives. Because you know that once you change someone's life, they then have better quality of life, then they can do more, and then they can make the world better as well. So by me kind of being a facilitator to getting them in shape and get a better quality of life, I am then having my impact by allowing them to make their impact, if you know what I mean. And then it's just like a domino effect, essentially. And if you are making people, have improved quality of life, then they want to give, and then they want to serve. And then that's the way I've been making my impact. And that's why I get up every morning and do what I do now. And that's why I have such a big passion for it, because I know that the work I do now is meaningful and impactful.
Love it. That's exactly why you're here with us. And our values align very closely. So I love hearing that.
Awesome.
Let's go back to this 850 calorie diet. What was this all about? And what did it trigger? Because it sent you down quite a dark path, didn't it? That had lasting effects, not just then, but for quite a while afterwards. Do you want to touch on this more?
Correct.
And caveat it as well, just in relation to your body weight and everything else. So people aren't listening thinking they might be on an 850, but they're not realizing their body weights are like 45 kilos, weight 50 kilos, etc.
Absolutely. And this also aligns quite nicely with the way that I had a big change within the person you saw when you met me and the person who I am today. Because like I said, when I entered London and when I came in, I was a boy, and I feel like, these 2 years I've gone from boy to man, and actually from someone who was a shell to actually who I am. And this aligns quite nicely with this story as well. So like we said, it's mandatory to do a photo shoot with this company that we worked for before, me and Akash. And I didn't necessarily have to do it at the time, but as Akash alluded to, I was some kid in a baggy t-shirt with nothing really other than, a sense of enthusiasm, which clearly wasn't seen. Other than that, I didn't really have much to me, because I was there just learning my craft and becoming a body transformation coach, right? So I was like, I know I can diet. I've done I did 2 shows last year. I know I can get in phenomenal shape. I know that they will value me for that. So that's why I'm going to do it. And another guy who actually you were mentoring at the time, right, Akash, he was also doing it as well. And we were, in the junior year together. So we were like, yeah, let's do it together. This gave me 6 or 7 weeks to get in shape, right? So the shoot was in April, I think April 1st. And it was like February, mid-Feb, maybe. Whatever. It was like 6 weeks or 7 weeks before. And so I'm not fat, but I'm also not lean, right? So I'm probably sitting at, I don't know, maybe 75 kilos when I know that my stage weight is 69, right? So I'm like 6 kilos in 6 weeks is not really going to be that tough, right? Also, but bear in mind that I didn't realize I'd lost a significant amount of muscle in that time. So I actually realistically, to be photo shoot shape, had to be like 67. So I actually had like 7 kilos to lose in 6 weeks. And obviously my body had been through a whole year of dieting prior to that for stage. So it wasn't prepped and in a good condition to start dieting. Nonetheless, Elliot had a point to prove. So we went into the diet. I got the help of a coach who you and I know, Akash. He looked at me. We took my shirt off, and I was like, "This is what I've been doing."
What did you say? He helped you through what? It cut off there slightly.
He helped me through the prep, basically.
Yeah.
So we threw 3 weeks out. He's like, "Take your shirt off." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "You're not going to make it." I was like, "What do you mean I'm not going to make it?" He's like, "You're not going to be lean enough." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm not going to be lean enough?" I was like, "I've been doing everything you said, right? I'm on like 1,400 calories. I'm doing cardio basically every day." And then I was like, "I will literally do anything to get in shape." I was like, "I'm not being the person who doesn't turn up in shape." He's like, "Okay, fine." And then he basically took me on to like a PSMF, right? So I'm sitting there at like 73 kilos. I'm working like 30 to 40 hours a week. I'm not allowed to leave
on PT, not just
one-to-one, right? I wasn't an online coach then. So and I'm
40 hours, just to put it in, so 40 hours PT is like 60 to 70 hours like total in the gym.
Exactly.
Your NEAT is sky high. Yeah.
NEAT is sky high. I'm cycling to and from work. I'm in the gym on the weekends, and I'm doing cardio on top of this as well. I'm doing literally as much lifts in between my sessions as I possibly can. And the steps are through the roof as well. So everything is capitalized from an expenditure perspective. I literally could not output more. So he put me down to like 850 calories, which is basically like 125 grams of chicken breast and 100 grams of green beans 5 times in a day. That's literally it, right? And for like a 70 kilo dude who's doing that much, it was just, it was soul sucking basically. Like, it was tough, but I said to him I would do anything. So I did do anything. And this is where Akash said that this guy just had no energy. And like, I tried to put all of my energy into the personal training sessions because I didn't want to let down my clients. So anytime between sessions that you see me, I'm just reserving my energy, or not even reserving my energy. I don't have anything left. Right. So that's when Akash sees me and I'm looking like a zombie, and I'm like, but I need to get in shape, right? I need to prove a point. Long story short, we get to the end of this prep. I turn up to my shoot. I'm not very muscular, but I'm lean enough, right? So we get some good pictures and fantastic. I made it, right? And I actually gained a little bit of respect from some of the other guys. So job done, and that's what I think. I'm like, okay, we're going to slowly build me back into a surplus. But all of a sudden, I am not feeling like very well at all. Like I can't, I'm having some issues in terms of like just wanting to eat all the time, never feeling satisfied. I'm feeling exhausted. Like I literally can't pick myself off the ground. And I'm like, you're on 850 calories. You're on like 1500 right now. And you're literally still a shell of a person. I just couldn't work out what it was. And, my headspace was not in a good place whatsoever. I don't want to go super deep down that rabbit hole, but at the same time, like I just wasn't in a good place whatsoever, mentally, physically, anything, like I just kind of lost all meaning to life, to be completely honest. I just couldn't get out of my own head, while still trying to maintain this performance at this gym that I have to, serve 40 clients, right? And 40 sessions per week where you have to give all your energy. And, I get to a point, and I actually haven't told anyone this, right? So, but I remember I was allocated like an 8 p.m. client, and I was doing a session in the evening, and like 8 p.m., personal training, 8 p.m. is like a late time to do a session, right? If you started at 6 a.m. in the morning, right? And I remember like, she was on the lying leg curl. She wasn't looking at me. And I just remember a tear falling down my eye. And I was literally just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I was like mid-set, I was like starting to cry. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to go home. I don't know. I can't handle this anymore. And I haven't told anyone this. We're going real deep right now, right? And this was on the gym floor, right? And so I just like kind of brushed my eyes away, and that was just like a really, really low point for me. And long story short, I finally decide that I need a way out. I need to, this environment, whatever I'm in right now, along with this diet, is just broken me, and I cannot get fixed. And so I went down, I actually, again, another thing that not a lot of people know, I actually went to hypnotherapy, and which was an absolute transformative thing for me. I decided to, fortunately, someone who I worked with at the time gave me her contact. He was like, I think you're going to really, really get a lot of value from her. And I went to see a hypnotherapist. She really, really, really changed my life in a profound way. And I owe her big time to this absolute day. And I refer so many clients to her now because I know how powerful her technique was. And essentially then I just made the decision that I needed to get out, and I needed to go fix myself in plenty of different ways. So then it just, it took me out of London. I actually moved back to my hometown of Oxford briefly, and then I moved to Cheltenham, where essentially I rebuilt myself. So, I took more care of my nutrition in terms of making sure everything was well balanced. I realized that there was a need for me to get better spiritually. I realized there was a need to be more of a person as just this person who's obsessed with health and fitness. So I delved into the self-development route and everything like that. And I prioritized my health over absolutely everything. And during this, this 6-month period whilst I was in Cheltenham, I was able to kind of recreate myself. No one knew me, fortunately. It was a lot small. It was an even smaller town than Oxford. I was quite stable in terms of, finances and the job I was doing. And I was able just to put so much deep work into myself. I started meditating, I started journaling, I started doing like affirmations. Like I would just be constantly reading. My weekends would be full of reading and just educating myself and just trying to make myself a better and better person, basically. And when you have no outside influence telling you that you can be a different person, you all of a sudden are able to create who you want to be and who you are becoming, essentially. And people say, like, you're like the average of the 5 people you spend time around. I wasn't spending time around a ton of people, but those 5 people were authors. They were self-development experts, and I was able to consume myself around that and essentially rebuild myself off all of those things whilst prioritizing my health. So, putting myself back in a surplus, just prioritizing good nutrition. And then fast forward to where we are today, and that's what I've continued to work on. And that's where you see the person I am on the screen right now.
Wow. Didn't know all of that was going on.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, right? You're like, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover.
No, exactly.
And that's probably my immature self as well. But you could just tell as soon as I saw you. Obviously, I hadn't seen you in person until last weekend. But even just the way you carry yourself since we've been working together, it's just a whole new person. And all those it must be years of self-development that you put in at a relatively young age, which is a testament to yourself as it is, has really paid off. And it's clearly been not just a game changer, but a life changer here for you.
Precisely. And, people, even included myself at the time, I look back and I'm so grateful for all that happening. It was probably the worst, it was my closest to rock bottom I've ever been. Right. So I value that so much now because it allowed me to be who I am today. And also now it helps me to help others who are in similar positions, right? So that's where I'm actually incredibly grateful, and I have so much value to the things that happened. At the time I'm like, couldn't have just been something a lot easier to teach me a lesson, but if that was the way that I needed to learn my lessons in life, then fantastic. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, good early lessons to have. And would you say that it was because of, we spoke earlier in today's show about your competitive season in 2016, where you completely burnt yourself out, probably hormonally as well. You peaked at April 2016, you carried on dieting till September. By September, you were completely zapped of all energy. And then you probably had about 2 months to recover, if you even recovered. And then you dieted again, this time even harder with literally no food, and your body just completely shut down. Is that a fair assessment on this whole situation? And then because your body's hormones and everything were just so low, your ability to handle any situation just completely went. Is that a fair assessment of the whole thing?
Yeah, you literally hit the nail on the head, and that's exactly what happens. And, and as stupid as it sounds, when you said after 8 weeks, you decided to bump up your calories. As soon as I finished my prep in September, I reverse dieted, in a 10 grams of carbs, 5 grams of fat fashion. I didn't bump up calories like people would expect me to. This was, post second show. So there wasn't a time that I was spending in a surplus. When I started to work in London, I was probably only just approaching a surplus. So I didn't even give really my body time to recover. I was just slowly creeping out this deficit, trying to hold on to as much condition as I can. So in 3 years' time, I don't have to work as hard to get the fat off. Do you know what I mean? That was my mentality, And that's, again, it's naivety. It's not really knowing any better. It's kind of getting consumed in your own thoughts. But that was the dieting phase. And it just wasn't conducive to anything whatsoever.
It's pretty much a year of dieting, and then you finish the diet with just a crash diet.
Yeah, exactly.
And your body body just shut down and everything else.
And it's a good lesson, right? You need to listen when, we can diet, we can do things like this, but at the same time, I don't like this whole listen to your body. If you got a sniff, you can't go to train and all that stuff. Pay attention to the when it gives you big signs, right? You'll feel those big signs, so pay attention to them. If you're feeling a little bit shoddy towards the back end of your diet, there's time where you just have to handle that and just, you know what I mean? When you get to the final 4 to 6 weeks of the dieting phase, there's a period where you just kind of just got to be suck it up and get on with it. Yeah. But if you've been dieting on and off for about 18 months and then all of a sudden your body's we don't want any more, then listen to it. But there's also a caveat in not being wet towards the end of your diet, and actually just like, actually there is a time to grind as well. So I still believe that as well.
No, 100%. You don't want to be, you don't want any of your clients now to think, oh, I'm a bit hungry. I think it's time to call it off.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Don't be a pansy. Like, actually, finish off your diet. Like, and this is what I mean. Again, this is why I can resonate with people. If someone's like, oh, I'm so hungry on 1,400 calories, whereas that actually suits their requirement from a expenditure perspective and body weight. And bear in mind, like, again, if we go back to how many calories I was on, I actually was training for about 6 or 7 years at that point, right? So I had been training for a while, so I had a good amount of muscle mass. Whereas if you're very new to training, like Nathan did a video on this the other day in a Facebook group, right? If you've got minimal muscle and you're like sitting on 1,000 to 1,200 calories, that's enough for you. And if you're telling me you're hungry, trust me, it's not as hungry as 850 calories.
Yeah, very true. One thing about your story there, you mentioned you went to see a hypnotherapist that changed your life. What was the one piece of advice? Was it she?
It was
she gave you? Yeah, she gave you that helped you climb out of the rock bottom.
So what I would say to people, and what I say to them now, like I've literally referred probably like 6 or 7 people to her over already, and I'm talking to my clients right now, and there's probably like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 of them who are in the process of going to her, because I honestly see it so valuable. But the main thing is that if you have something that you consider an issue, whether that's a problem with food, whether that's a problem with your mental health or anything like that, it's not going to get any better if you don't do anything about it, because of you are not capable of peeling back the layers enough to get to the deep root of the problem. All these things that trigger you are just surface reasons. They're just things that happen as a byproduct of the real reason behind it. And the real reason behind it, you won't be aware of it. It's somewhere buried deep in your subconscious. And only once you have a professional, such as someone like Sharon, who I went with, will you realize that these things, you'll realize the deep-rooted cause. Whereas you don't actually have the ability to, you might have an idea, but you won't actually really be able to connect the dots until you go and dig deep and actually do that. But at the same time, another caveat is you've actually got to be ready to deal with whatever comes up, right? Like my circumstance isn't that bad. I didn't have a bad childhood or anything like that. But some people do, some people have, abuse at home and stuff like that. And if that could be something behind you, then you've got to be ready to deal with that. But trust me, it's going to be harder during that time where you have to deal with it. But long term, it's going to be, it's going to be so much better, because you're not going to have to go through these tendencies where potentially you binge, potentially you drink too much, potentially you have depressive thoughts. If you can deal with the really, really hard time for a period and work through that, then you won't have to worry with these, these surface things that actually impact your life on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis.
What period of your life got brought to the surface during this period?
So this is an interesting thing. So if you ask most people, they'll be like, oh, it's this breakup I had when I was 18. Oh, it was something that happened when I was 20. It's not. It's, these situations that triggered you are basically manifestations of what you already kind of deeply know. And they usually go back really deeply to childhood. They go, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And then every single situation after that you think is the reason, it's just related to that small reason that happens, multiple years ago.
Very interesting stuff. And how does it work with hypnotherapy? Are you put on hypnosis or?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and just trust me as well, like when I went, I was like absolute non-believer. Like I didn't believe anything could possibly work. But when you're in a position where, life isn't a pleasant thing, you will kind of search for anything to help you out. Right. So that was kind of the reason I headed there. And then, basically she talks to you initially. And this is the thing, and this is the beautiful thing about hypnotherapy compared to just actual, like going to see a psychologist, right? If a psychologist, apparently, like this is the way it goes, right? If you go see a psychologist or something like that, they'll say, what's your problems? Let's talk about your problems. If you're anything like me, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm a closed book. I am not going to tell you anything about my issues, right? Even if I think it's going to help, because if I don't feel comfortable saying that, right? So when I got into her office, she was asking me, I was like, I can't really talk to you about it. I can't physically get these words out of my mouth. And then she basically takes you into hypnosis, however the way she does it. You know, you are fully conscious, your eyes are closed, but you're fully conscious. And all of a sudden you are an open book. And all of a sudden you can relay information about your past that you didn't even realize you had access to, right? Like basically what will happen is images from your past will come up and you will essentially tell the story of those images. I was not able to access any of those images prior to me going. And what's interesting now is I remember way more about my childhood than I did before. So I now have access to even more than I did, I never realized I had, but only after doing that.
Well, that's fascinating.
They go in deep.
Yeah. Should bring her on the podcast.
We should, yeah. We should. And as I was going to say, because we were trying to get her on a team call, and I think she'd be a really, really good person to be on a podcast as well.
Amazing. One more question that related to this is, since you work with her, you said you did a lot of self-development. What was the self-development tool that you used that had the most impact on you?
I think it's got to be like just books and podcasts, to be completely honest. I didn't like go to Tony Robbins' 3-day event where you shout and scream with a bunch of people and you go into his tribe. Like, it was mainly just investing myself. I would actually say that I read a book that was also had a huge impact on my life, which was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if anyone's read that, if you come across it, but that at that time was exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm kind of funny in the way that, you know, this is probably not things that people think about me surfacely, but when I have basically a list of books that I have on my notes, and I genuinely believe that when I look for those lists, the book I need calls me. And it basically, like, I know that I need to read this book in this moment. And at that time, The Power of Now was like, I'd heard about it, like I heard people speak about it, and that was the one that called me at that moment in time. It was exactly what I needed to hear. And with all that being said, it had the ability to then exactly change my frame of thinking, and then everything else kind of, you know, everything else come on top of that. In terms of every other book I read was kind of closely related to that self-development, but then also actually taking action in the real world. So I know a lot of people who just consume this stuff, and you have a conversation with them, they talk to you all day long about it, and yet they're still sat there reading these books instead of actually taking the action that the books tell you to actually do. That kills me. Like, you know, these people who really invest themselves in the self-development world but actually don't do anything, right? So you actually have to go apply that to your real world. And I remember even like one instance, I was listening to a podcast, and it was I think it was Jason Frugler or something like that, and then he said something along the lines of, he used to set himself, because he was very gym based when he was younger, he used to set himself goals of talking to people. Yeah, exactly. So he would be like, you know, today I need to talk to 5 people, you know, so he put himself out there, he set himself like personal development PRs, right? So that's exactly what, like, I kind of took that stuff on board. And, you know, I would go into supermarkets and start talking to people. I would talk to people on lifts, and I do it now, and it scares the hell out of people, because people in London are like, why are you conversating? Why are you even talking to me right now, right? But that's what I do. I then invested in doing stuff like that. I just started to talk to more people. I started to, you know, look into people's eyes when I spoke to them, actually listen to what they had to say, as opposed to trying to close off a conversation or trying to talk about myself, you know. And once you start doing small things here and there, it all manifests, and it just becomes a part of who you are, which, like I said, is why I'm who I am today. And like, even with this meetup that we had the other day, like, I was just in my element talking to people. I just really enjoyed having conversations with these clients who, you know, in person I've never met before, but, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago I would have been incredibly uncomfortable in an environment like that, because I just wasn't used to it. And now this is the type of thing that I actually thrive off, and I actually, you know, it's kind of like going into the gym. You know, you're competent in lifting weights, but, you know, there's you're still improving every time you go in. And that's how I kind of see these scenarios, such as a meetup, such as, you know, conversating with someone I haven't had before. You're still refining and perfecting your craft. And I get a kick out of that. I get fulfillment actually within these human interactions that I have.
That's amazing. Well, what piece of advice would you give to anyone who's listening to this that feels shy, extremely introverted, scared to talk to people? What would you say to those people?
I would firstly say find out the reason why that is. So if there is something that's holding you back, and whether that comes from your childhood, wherever that comes from, then you need to find the reason first, and then in some way, shape, or form accept and come to terms with it. And then once you've done that, then you can be let free and you can start to develop yourself, right? So unless you know the root cause behind the introverted nature that you have, then you won't, I hear people a lot say, like, I just like my space. I like being to myself. And I get that. And that's all cool. But you've also got to have the other side of you where if you're fearful of talking to people and if you're fearful of being in group environments, then there's something holding you back there. So you need to find out what that is.
Yeah, very sage advice there. Elliot, do you believe in God?
I don't necessarily believe in God, so to speak. I don't feel like we're here by coincidence. I don't feel like, and I feel like if we are here by coincidence, then that's amazing. And we actually need to probably do something about that. Right? I don't just believe that we were just, we're the only species that we know of who do all of these things. And this is just a coincidence. And yeah, like I said, if it is, then we really need to do something about it because this is one incredible coincidence, right?
Very true. And that's a topic for another podcast, I think.
Yeah.
And we're going to get you on. We'll have to get you on for round 2. Let's finish up on some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, we need to change the pace. This is too deep now.
Yeah, I was thinking it's probably too deep, too late in the podcast. I thought we'd set the scene with that question, and we'll do another one again.
Mate, you're gonna have to give a really, really good intro about staying on to the end. You're like, it's all training related. Just skip to like 55 minutes, and that's where the real interesting stuff happens.
Yeah, it really took us a turn there, but great stuff. All right, rapid fire questions. Switch it up a bit. Coming to the end of a diet, what is your go-to cheat meal?
Anything that my girlfriend cooks. She's an unbelievable cook, so anything that she cooks is probably waffles and a homemade lasagna. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Very sensible advice. Very sensible answer there.
I had to win some points.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're going to tell her to listen to this more than anyone. What is the one thing you're looking forward to most in 2019?
In 2019,
or the second half of 2019?
To continue changing lives. I've been with RNT for only like 4 months now, so we're getting to the point where a lot of my bigger transformations are coming through. So I'm super excited to see all of those unravel. Really excited.
Elliot's bringing the heat right now. He's the man of the. I think July is going to be his month.
It's going to be a good month. So if you're one of my guys and you know that you're in this position, keep on going.
Time to bring the heat. Final question: who should we have on our podcast next?
Who should you have on your podcast next?
Outside of the hypnotherapist who we'll get in contact with.
You're gonna stump me with this one. Last one I don't have an answer to. Your parents.
My parents?
Yeah. I think it would be really interesting for you to ask questions to them, and then you're able to like dive deep into why you are the way you are because of the way they are. I think that would be interesting.
I mean, that's going deep. You're not the first person who said that either.
Yeah, I met them on Saturday night.
Oh, you met them in the meetup?
Yeah. Well, didn't you tell Akash to introduce your dad to everyone? And then he was just coming around, the other Akash, and then he was just like coming around being like, "Hey, this is Akash's dad. This is Akash's mum. So they don't actually have names."
Yeah, Akash was like to me, he's like, "Let me just take control of them. Let me go." I was like, "All right, do your thing, man." Yeah, saves me doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
awesome. I'll have to get them on then. Cool. Any parting words until round 2?
No, I think I've given way too many words today. I don't even know. I feel a bit emotional right now. It's just a pleasure to be doing what I'm doing. And like I said, I'm extremely thankful to be part of the team and have this opportunity to live my purpose, essentially. So we'll finish on that.
Really, really good to have you on today. It was a very, very insightful episode. It's been a long time coming, and hopefully your clients in particular really are able to take inspiration from your story and use this to propel them forward in their own journey. For more, if you know anyone who can relate to Elliot's story, especially the things we discussed towards the end, please share it with your family and friends. I'm sure a lot of people here can relate to certain aspects of his journey. For more information, please visit www.rntfitness.com and follow us on Instagram at rnt_fitness. Thanks for listening.